Hello and good morning friends, welcome to CEC-UGC live lecture. Dear friends, as you know, in this session of ours, these days we are talking a lot about media theories, and today also we are going to discuss on gender and media theory. For this we have again with us in our studios Shashwati Goswami, who is teaching in IIMC. So under her noble guidance, I hope today also we are going to learn something more, something which sometimes we are unable to find in books, because the practical experience which she shares with her students, she always try to incorporate in these lectures also. So first of all, I would like to welcome our guest, Shashwati ji. Welcome to the EDISET lecture.
Thank you. Thank you
and
so
hope this topic today, as we have been talking a lot on media theory, today you have incorporated a gender element into this also. Hope this would be going to be another one of the productive lectures of ours.
Yeah, it's actually very exciting, and the topic is a challenging one, because we see gender represented in media in various way, and we really want to know what exactly is happening. So dear students, good morning, and all the viewers, good morning. And I'm talking about gender and media theory today, how gender theory relates to media theory, how gender is represented in media. So it's a wide ranging topic basically, and it's going to be quite complex. What I assure you is that today it might be a touch and go. Maybe eventually we will try to analyze every gender related theory in detail. So let us just try to understand how is gender studies related to media. I hope you know what is gender studies. Gender studies talk about gender and the projection of gender and depiction of gender and analysis of gender in any subject area, sociological, economical, or whatever. So how do you relate gender studies to media? And of course, what is gender studies before that? Why do we need it? How are theories of gender studies related to media studies? And the idea of gender, is it sociological, political, psychological, behavioral, or maybe economic? These are the broad areas that actually touches us and that actually engages us with the topic. So is gender studies related to media? It is. In fact, you will have number of complaints all the time. If you are a woman, you feel violated seeing certain advertisements on media, or maybe representation of a woman in media. And this is why media is so much related to gender studies. I'll tell you what, media is actually a reflection of the social order that we are going through, the political order that we are going through. So, and as society regards gender in a typical way or a different way or the way they want to, so obviously gender studies has a relationship with media, and media studies theory actually can borrow a lot from gender studies theories. So we'll try to know. And before that, I would like to really tell you about the idea of feminism, because the gender studies does very seriously regard feminism, think about feminism, and that's why it's very important for you to understand what is feminism. So I'll quote, feminism is a women-centered mode of analysis that takes grounding from the historical exclusion of women from political, economic, education, etc. spheres of life, unquote. So what is feminism? It is a way to understand why and how women had been excluded from history, from politics, from economics, from education, and such other areas of life. Feminism believes that the socio-political and economic equality of sexes is very important. Feminist theory is also an outgrowth of the general movement to empower women worldwide. I would suggest, I have not included the activists here, but if you are interested, please do read up Clara Zetkin. Clara Zetkin had looked at feminism from the perspective of economic empowerment. So please do look up Clara Zetkin. Maybe in eventual classes we might talk about such activists or people who had contributed to the growth of feminism. Feminism can be defined as a recognition and critique of male supremacy combined with efforts to change it. So, the first thing that is taken for granted is there is something called male supremacy in the society, and that needs to be critiqued and that should be changed. So, my male viewers, please don't get miffed. It's not about anti-male, it's all about having a humanistic approach to all genders. The feminism area of study of feminism is to understand the exclusion or lack of representation historically by and within the media, how women had been excluded. Let me, I hope you all know Shakespeare. In Shakespearean drama, during that period, in fact, all women's role was performed by men. Similarly, even in our folk culture, all women's role in drama were performed by males. You'll just look at your own folk drama or own folk culture, and you'll see that the males, the young male who is not much matured and has a soft face and more beautiful than the rest of the men, then I'm going to actually analyze what is beauty later on. So don't take any umbrage about it. But who are supposedly beautiful in the eyes of the society, these are the young boys who used to perform the role of a women. So there was an exclusion written in history, and women's role in the media has been constructed as consumers. I'm going to analyze that later on, so I don't want to analyze it right now. What feminism actually wants to understand is why women's role in the media is always as a consumer. She only consumes, and media of course perpetuate a lot of stereotypes and normalize gender behavior. If you are a woman, you have to behave like this. So when your child is your daughter or your niece or your sister who is young, and she cries, she cries, you always say this girls just don't know how to cry. So if a male child cries, the parents or his peer group will say, "Ye to ladki jaisi roti hai." This boy cries like a girl. So look how we create stereotypes, and also we believe that a girl does not play with toys like cars, guns. She will play only with say some dolls and such other things. So have anyone tried giving a car to a daughter? Never. In fact, if the car is going out, the father is going out in a car for a drive, he would prefer his son to come along and the daughter to stay back and help her mother. So aren't we creating gender normalization, that this is how we behave? And this is completely perpetuated by the media. This is one area where feminism works. See, but in later when women started appearing in media, later on, it was just because she was supposed to be a consumer, and it was only with the belief that men went to earn money and gave their checks to the wives to go buy useless things. So if you look at, say you try to look at cartoons on man-woman relationship, look at programs on man-woman relationship, and you will see that the woman has been typecasted as one who is a spender in the society. But if in real life, you will find women who actually doesn't like shopping, who is a good economist and really doesn't spend anything on anything that's for her, but basically for the family. So even if she is spending, she is calculating. But that particular perspective doesn't come into the media program. Consumer stereotyping and normalizing of gender roles starts at a young age in adolescence and actually teen. I'll tell you how. If she's a girl, I already told you, she is given a toy of a doll. She's supposed to be taken care of. Everybody is so happy. And what you do, you know, unknowingly you do, we do a lot of things. We tell, say you go to, you visit with along with your daughter or your sister, young sister, to someone's place, and that family had not seen you for a long time, your family. So they all of a sudden realize that the daughter had grown up to be 8 years old. So the first comment that comes is, oh, your daughter has grown up so old, she is almost ready to be married. That completely enters her head. And this is where the market works. How does it work? They will create a market for paraphernalia for marriages. There will be beauty shows for marriage, weddings. There will be so many, just look at the market now. Wedding is a market. So she becomes a consumer of that market, and for that the media does help. And that conditioning makes her really feel that she should behave like this. And the men as well. The boy, he goes out, he walks, he plays. And in fact, you look at your society nearby and you will see that a girl doesn't play after some time. She stays back home, and a boy goes on playing till he is in 12th or sometimes even down in the colleges. So that stereotyping and normalizing is completely on throughout adolescence and teen. And movies, TV shows and magazines promote and reinforce ideas that girls are obsessed with boys, makeups, drama, and of course secret. So most of the time you will if two girls are whispering within themselves, we think that they are actually gossiping. So we already had created that, and we see people, such typecasting in movies, two girls frivolously say just laughing. They are just making fun of something. They are just without any contention. They are laughing. It's completely dilution of the character of a woman. It's not about making her a sensible citizen. It's all about making her a gender stereotype. Let us come to a very important theory, and it's called the theory of male gaze. I'm sure a lot of people will have problem with this, but it is a very important theory for media studies to understand how the media creates the male gaze. It is Laura Mulvey who had in fact propagated this theory, and she had said the image of woman is a raw material for the gaze of man. So woman is a passive player and the male is a active player. So the entire image of women is created as a raw material for the man to look at, to gaze at. Gazing is looking intensely. It's not looking slightly but intensely. In fact, dissecting a woman from top to bottom. Images are created so as to be viewed by only the male eyes, though the audience might be composed of all genders. Don't you feel that? Say advertisements of deodorant, advertisements of motorcycle, even undergarments of men have a woman out there. Why? What exactly is the purpose? Do you remember the advertisement of a very popular bicycle company which had a woman, and a man, when he was holding the bicycle, was actually feeling like holding the woman? Isn't it violation of your basic human rights to be regarded as a human being rather than as a commodity? But male gaze theory says that this is why this particular idea of women is created in media. There are very many forms of gaze. Let me just narrate to you 5 of them. The spectator's gaze, how the director views the text. So what the director does is, when, say it's, let us talk about a film or a TV show. because in print the visuals are created mostly from the basically from the visuals for TV or films, and then we get it in print. Radio doesn't have a male gaze, so we are eliminating that particular medium. But social media will obviously come seriously. So let's talk about the creation of one program by a director for television or radio. It's audio or completely visual medium. So the director looks at the text and he has a spectator's gaze. He understands what he thinks that he understands rather what the spectator will like to see, and accordingly he will edit the text. So the director's gaze comes first. And though I am going on saying gaze, I hope you understand it's the look, how you look at it intently, deeply. Then there is this intradigitic gaze, when the character gazes at an object or another character in the text. So you will see, say a woman comes, they are going, two people are in the text, there is one shot where the two people, a young woman and a young man are going out, and she comes all dressed and comes down, and the man will look at her with awe, and he will look at her from top to bottom, lingering on almost every part, whether that man is looking at her or not, but the camera does, and makes us understand that this man, from whose eyes this camera is looking at this woman, is looking at this woman like this. So it is the gaze of the character. Then there is something called extradigitic gaze, where the character looks into the camera, looking right at the viewer. I hope you had seen movies where you see a very close shot of a female character and her eyes, and there is something called appeal in her eyes. She is looking directly into the camera and appealing, and the spectators are supposed to be aroused in a different way. To be actually, the spectators are supposed to react to her eyes. That is the camera's look at her, and this is how she is constructed. That's the extradigitic gaze. And the camera gaze. This is very interesting. Sometimes the director doesn't direct the cameraman that he should do this and that. But the cameraman also knows how to look at the woman through the camera, because that's the written text. I'm not trying to blame any cameraman, nor any director, nor any scriptwriter. That is the dominant way that a society is looking at a woman, and that filters down to the creation of the media content. Then of course the editor's gaze, the one who edits on the board. He or she will say that, even she, remember, cameraman, when I am saying cameraman, I am not excluding the women cameraman at all. When I am talking about a director, I am not excluding the director who is a woman. And not even when I am talking about the editor, am I talking about a male editor. It's a construction of society through which these particular functions are performed. So the editor also knows which will sell, which particular shot will sell, give TRPs or whatever you call them, and have a box office hit because of these particular shots. And this is where the editor also edits. So in all these 5 forms of gazes, there is this social construct of women as a commodity coming strongly. This is what the male gaze theory says. It's not me. Andon added that women have a marginal gaze within the film, just like a patriarchal society. Of course, that's true. If you see, recently there has been many women-centric movies coming in India. But have you seen those movies? Look at the woman, either she is an exploited woman, either she is a very distressed woman, either I don't want to take names of the movies, but if you look at the movies which have come up with women-centered stories, there is either a man who is being very strong for her, helping her out to be a woman and be successful, or either she's been protesting against the society, she's an activist all the time, she's trying to do something for her husband. So this is marginal gaze. She's not the pivotal story of the society, of that film. She's basically a character who is adding to the male dominance or the patriarchy of the society. Susan Moore in 1988 added that male bodies are only on display in certain conditions. They are always in active poses as they can walk away from the woman's gaze. So the man's body when in display is for in certain conditions. He will never advertise a woman's lingerie in a sleazy way as a woman will do for a male deodorant or a male undergarment. And Van Junen, I would suggest you read Van Junen. She had really written a very excellent book, but it's for you to read. She had, I really like her explanation, and if you look at it, you will also understand that. She just in 1994 she had said that men look at women watch themselves being looked at. Isn't it interesting? When say we all are sitting down together, there are male family members and everyone, and there is a sleazy woman coming in, or a woman skimpily dressed or something like that, and the camera is panning that way, tracking her movement, and the man is watching. And what we as women we are doing, we are watching the men watching the women. That's how our role is completely marginalized. I had told you just a few minutes back about the idea of beauty. It's very important to understand the idea of beauty, to understand why it is constructed and why media takes beauty so seriously. Naomi Wolf said that the idea of beauty has two functions. There are many other theorists. I didn't include here because it would become a complete class of the idea of beauty rather. So I've just included those which are important for us to understand media and gender. She said that there are two functions. One is a social function. Beauty disciplines women into conforming to a set ideas of appearance and also images. Let me explain. You have products available in market which enhances your color, complexion, which for an adolescent girl who is going through the hormonal changes, it's the pimples you are worried about. If the pimples had given you some scar, then you have advertisement for scar removal creams. Then you have shampoo which straightens your hair, shampoo which does this and does that. Even you can be very powerful. With a particular shampoo, you can pull trucks out of muddle. Can you understand that? So this is how a social function is accomplished. That a girl should look like this. And when you are fair looking, then only you get a job. Then only you get a job, and then only you get a man in your life. And what does it say? That it's important that you have a man in your life. It's a social function. We have to remember marriage is a social contract. And that social contract needs to be accomplished by two people who are in tandem, some way agree, and the families agree, and etc., etc., etc. Of course, the idea of beauty also has an economic function. Beauty is a commodity. It is something which has a market value and of course an aspirational connotation to it. It also, because of that, has a shelf life like any other commodity. So by 25, you are asked to use anti-wrinkle cream because your shelf life as a young 25-year is going down. So you have to watch out your wrinkle, because the moment you have wrinkles, your economic function of beauty is not there. Let me narrate to you one heart-rendering story. You remember India had two beauty queens, one Miss World and one Miss Universe. I don't want to take their names, you all know, in the 90s. So what happened? There was a story in a newspaper long back at that time. One young girl committed suicide just after, say, 6 months of that beauty pageant and India ruling the beauty world all of a sudden. And what was the reason for that? She was a daily wage earner going to do people's domestic, basically a domestic laborer. She goes to people's houses and then cleans utensils or does the domestic work, and she was saving some money to buy some beauty products which these two beauty queens were promoting, so that she can become as beautiful as they were, because this is what they said in the advertisements. I use this shampoo, I use this and I use this, so I am so beautiful. And that aspiration started building inside her. And so as she couldn't afford it normally, she saved some money. But unluckily, being from a poor background, her father fell sick. And her mother had to take away that money from her without her knowledge and use for her father's treatment. The girl was devastated and she committed suicide. This is what is this? It's a psychological function of beauty. It's not. It's a full socio-economic function coming in and devastating a psychology of a young girl. And I'm sure she looked as beautiful as any could be naturally. But where is natural beauty promoted? Now when you have natural beauty promoted, it is also a product. This is a natural beauty product, so you buy it. That's the idea of beauty. I would like you to, Priscilla Amundsen had put up this, and it's a very interesting, don't get agitated about this, but this is what actually the theory of male gaze says, that she's beautiful, she's in the limelight, and someone is ogling at her. Let's come to the theories now. There is a theory called radical feminism. Radical feminism is a philosophy emphasizing the patriarchal roots of inequality between men and women, or more specifically, social dominance of women by men. So it emphasizes that there is a patriarchal root to the inequality that exists between men and women, and of course there is a social dominance of women by men. Radical feminism also views patriarchy as dividing rights, privileges and power primarily by gender, and as a result oppressing women and privileging man. That's their belief. Radical feminists tend to be more militant in that approach. They just want to get into the roots and change it there. Change the patriarchy, not just the peripheral differences. It also opposes existing political and social organizations in general, because it is inherently tied to patriarchy. So marriage as an institution, family as an institution is challenged because that is rooted to patriarchy. And most of the countries, most of the cultures have the women go out from the family and go after marriage and be with the husband's family. Whatever she gets as a dowry goes to the family. She has no rights to whatever family property is there. So such things are completely rooted to patriarchy. Thus, radical feminists tend to be skeptical of political action within the current system, and instead tend to focus on cultural change that undermines patriarchy and associated hierarchical structure. This is very debatable, because what is change? How are you sure that that particular change can elicit and eliminate patriarchy? Are we succumbing to a different form of patriarchy? You really need to be sure before you want to break something. Patriarchy is a very centrifugal force for the radical feminist media theory. They believe that whatever is there in the media is because of the patriarchal notion that the society have about women. And it has a lot of things to say about pornography. And there is one book by Andrea Dworkin, which I would suggest you can read, Pornography, Men Possessing Women, and it raised a lot of concern. And actually, radical feminism has owes a lot to this book. According to her, pornography objectifies women for pleasure of men and negates her basic human identity. And it has not changed. From 1981 till this date, pornography or whatever you call them, the sleazy things that we do in movies is for the pleasure of the man, and she has been exploited and her basic human identity has been completely destroyed. The feminist media theories, there are 4 strands. Early feminist media theory began to emerge in the mid-1960s and 70s and included the work of people like Betty Friedan, Germaine Greer, and there's an interesting book called The Mystic, Feminine Mystic, and another called The Feminine Eunuch, wherein they raised many important and relevant issues. Greer's book discussed romance novels and the ways in which they promote unrealistic ideals and beliefs centered on heterosexual romance. Those people who had been completely educated in English medium schooling, you have almost all of you have read Mills and Boon series, HarperCollins series, the romantic series. And have you seen how the idea of romance is constructed there, something which is very unrealistic, idealistic, where the woman is all the time pleading for the male's attention. And funnily, a lot of those books are written by women. You cannot blame only the male for doing it. Why it happens, I'll come to it later on. But it's just that you have to remember that these romantic novels is not real. This is a construction of an idea called the ideals of love, how it should be and how it is. And this is what Greer had said in her media theory, that this is how the women is constructed by media. In The Feminine Mystic, Friedan raises the issue of magazines and how they endorse myths of fulfillment through domesticity. This image centered by women's magazines, by advertisements, television, movies, shapes women's lives today and mirrors their dreams. Let me come to a few advertisements that we are seeing in our own television screens now. She's a woman who is well dressed, well groomed. The hair is in perfect style, perfect position. The nails are completely clean, and her hands look pedicured, manicured, everything, hands and feet. She's well dressed, not a single spot on her dress, and she's cooking for her child, and she's trying to make her child eat good things. And in the meantime, the clothes are soiled, so she needs to wash it, and she has a beautiful, efficient washing machine. So, and then after the hectic morning schedule, she has a very bad backache, and she needs to be prim and proper for the evening when her family gathers back. So she applies a lovely balm, and if possible, the men does it for her. It's empowerment of the women that the men does it for her. For what? She needs to look proper at the end of the day. And so she looks proper, well dressed, almost dancing with the food, preparing 7 dishes, 9 dishes, and laying the table for the family. And morning she lays the table for the family. Then she is some health drink mom. She is the one who pushes her son or her daughter to the extreme limit to achieve. She is the one who spends. This is created. The idea of a domestic animal, actually, not a human being, who has these functions to be done is created by advertisements, by the television serials or soaps or programs, the movies, etc., etc. This is what Friedan had said in her book, The Feminine Mystic. Liberal feminist media theory says something else. Media fails to reflect change within society, including the role of women within it. If you look at the name, it's called Liberal Feminist Media Theory. So it shows that this theory is not as radical as the radical feminist theory. It's a liberal one. They say that changes are happening. Women are not targeted the way they were targeted previously. Now they are more. It's changing, and of course you see some changes in the advertisements or some programs. Changes like recently you have seen one advertisement in Indian television where the woman is the boss of the office. She dictates to her husband, who is her junior, who is working under her, that you should finish your project and then come. You get this evening to finish your project. He protests, but she is not relented. And so what happens? She comes back home. What does she do? She cooks 5 dishes or 3 dishes, I don't remember, but then 3 or 4 dishes for her husband, uploads it with her smartphone and sends it to her husband and says, the wife wants you back. And the husband says, please tell the boss. So she's empowered. She's dictating the terms and conditions to her immediate junior, who is happens to be her husband. So the husband doesn't have any problem with the hierarchy. But the moment she comes back to her domestic domain, she becomes another lovely wife. This is, if you call it change, then it is change. You can analyze it by yourself. But liberal media feminist media theory says that the media is not reflecting the changes properly. Gay Tuckman wrote about the symbolic annihilation of women by the mass media in 1978. It was a long time back. But you have to remember those are developed societies. So a lot of theories are still applicable to Indian context, though they are old theories. Wherein she states that how women are absent or underrepresented, shown as a minority within media texts, they are in fact being symbolically annihilated, excluded. So what she says is what you also find in the movies of 70s, 80s and up till 90s in fact, where the woman is a sister, a crying sister, doting sister, who puts a rakhi on her brother's hand every day. Not that I have any problem with her rakhi, but that's her only accomplishment. She is a widowed mother who completely sacrifices her life for the family. She is a doting wife who will do anything for her husband, and even if he fails and commits mistake, she will have her arms spread out to embrace him back. Her roles are just compartmentalized and put in those shapes, and so she is actually completely symbolically basically annihilated from the media purview. Liberal feminist media theory has, of course, positive and negative aspects to it. You can analyze it. I'm just putting it forward for you. The positive aspect is that the way it records the use of stereotypes within media text and the introduction of ideas such as symbolic annihilation. Those are very interesting things that they have found. They have pointed out that the woman is stereotyped, and the another is introduction of the idea of symbolic annihilation. But the negative one is lack of focus of media genre and the important role that plays in the production and use of stereotypes and representation. So what the critique is that there is something which is behind this stereotyping, behind this way of representation, and this is not analyzed. maybe it's because you can call it patriarchy, you can call it social conditioning, and because of this happens. It's just not they are annihilated for the sake of annihilation, it is because there is something else working on it. But also the way in which it assumes media effects rather than questioning the way an audience may consume a text and denying their awareness of the way the media works. So what the liberal feminist media theory says, that the audience is passive. If you remember the audience theory, you can always relate it to it. It assumes that the audience is passive, they just consume a text. They are not critic of the text. And they don't actually analyze the awareness of the way the media works that the people have. So this is a critique of the liberal feminist theory. You can discuss it, debate it, please do read books and find out whether you conform to it or not. Then there is something called socialist feminist media theory, and is largely based on capitalist values and ideas, largely contesting Marxist theories and communist ideals. While Marxist media theory focuses on the relationship between the elite and the media, which is instrumentalism, and also the economic determinants on media production and output, which is political economy, socialist feminist media theory focuses on things such as the nurturing role that women must play within the capitalist society. This is a little bit hilarious, but the theory really does exist. This role is essential because a capitalist society needs healthy, able workers, men, in order to function. This is what they say. So this is why there is no problem in stereotyping women as a domesticated human being. The media plays an important role in enforcing these ideas, and socialist, feminist, media theorists believe that it positions women in this nurturing role and also positions them to willingly do unpaid labor in their role as housewife or mother. So in media helps creating this concept of an unpaid laborer who is a housewife or a media. This is what the socialist media theory says. Let us go to the last theory, which is the postmodern feminist media theory, and it focuses chiefly on the way that audiences read text, whether they are affected by the media and the degree of control that the audience have over this. Postmodern theory is very critical. I would suggest that we have another class on that, and someday we discuss it thoroughly. But what they want to say is that whatever media puts in the public domain, the people construct the text, read the text, or consumes the media in a different way. There is a degree of control that the audience have over this. It's not that because it has been projected like this that the audience will consume the same way. The audience controls what is being consumed. So it's not, media is almost absolved of its responsibility. But this is very interesting debate which is going on. If any one of you who have a literature background, you will know what is postmodern theory, or people from sociology, you will know what is a postmodern theory. Do understand that, and that would help you understand this feminist theory as well. A key study, I just give you an example, a key study that has derived from postmodern feminist media theory is that of Madonna by both Fiske and Kaplan. They discuss many things about her music, her constant construction of her image, and also the reading of Madonna herself as a media text. Fiske in fact had said that how the text is constructed by the people who consumes it, how she is redesigned every time. Madonna being a cult music character in the Western world, so she had come from a very marginalized background, and had through her own qualities has risen to a cult position, and that is why Fiske and Kaplan had did a study on her and then found that it's not only her construction, it's also how the people want to construct her that had created the idea of Madonna and sustained it. It's a very interesting but a very tough read, but those who people want to do maybe their research in feminist gender studies and media theory, you can really look at this theory to analyze the text. I would like to summarize, and after summarization, I would like to just analyze something that I had promised I will do to you, to conclude, you have to understand all the 4 strands of feminist media theory are not actually mutually exclusive. You will see that they actually are discussing points which helps us in understanding the entire gender issue more holistically. In fact, they are many times complementary to each other. You cannot leave out patriarchy to understand liberal theory. All the theories are concerned about the way women are projected, treated, represented in the media. However, they have their own foibles, they have their own problems, but they do help us understand the wider issue of women and media in a better way. With the conclusion of this, I would like to just tell you something that I had said. I told you, I had discussed with you that the romantic series of books that you read are often written by women writers. Why does it happen? Where the women character is marginalized, almost shown as one who is seeking love and sacrificing everything. Why does it happen? Why do you think it happens? Why even a very educated mother tells her son without thinking on it that when her small child is crying, the son, why are you crying like a girl? She is educated, she knows, she understands the dimension of gender, she has been a fighter to assert her gender independence, her gender identity, but in spite of that she says that. Then we have this tendency to blame the women for the plight of the women. The women are the women's enemies. These are things we generally speak. I think you have also spoken sometimes, even I have done maybe. Why do we do it? There is something called social conditioning, which is like a very slow poisoning. I'm just putting it negatively, but such a slow thing is only related to poisoning, that's why I'm saying that. You are groomed from the moment you are born into a form of gender, form of value system. You are taught some ethical things about how to behave in a society. So, there are something called cultural markers of one culture. These are identity markers, and these are supposed to be promoted to retain your tradition, your culture, and these are taught to you and unknowingly taught to you. There is no agenda behind it. Patriarchy is inherent. It is there inside us in our society. It is not something which is by design put into our society. It is a condition of the society. So everything that we do has a coating of that particular value system. So without understanding many things, we say that. We say that a woman should behave like this. Her clothes are very important. What she wears is more important than what a man wears. So if you look at if you look at any culture, say look at your own culture, you are always very concerned about what the women wear on a festival day rather than the men. Men are always in a T-pant and a shirt. Not because the men have been liberated, because the women are seen as that point of society from where the tradition takes off or is continued. She is the bearer of the traditional value system because she has been commodified. She has been commodified. She is a commodity. She belongs to a family. So she is a belonging to. Before marriage, we say that before marriage, it's her father and her brother. After marriage, her husband and then her son. So these are the 4 males in her life who owns her, who has a control over her. So that social conditioning is so strong inside us that we, without understanding, without actually meaning, we say certain things. like the female, the women is the villain, and she is the one who is so we have those Saas Bahu serials, and it's so such popular serials, television soap operas, because somehow we relate to it, we see it in our society. And you know what, by having those serials in our television box day in and day out, we are corroborating that value system. So I hope you understood this. Gender studies and media is a vast area, and which should be very seriously understood to, if you want to change the outlook of media towards. In fact, you have a recent issue of one film actor, Hindi film actor, being badly projected by media, and a lot of Twitter reactions going for it, and people applauding her for this reaction and all these things happening. So to incorporate those changes, to incorporate the idea of a woman as a human being, forget about equality, as a human being, to incorporate it in media studies, and then of course in media, we have to understand these theories and analyze it and find out the way out, because the society cannot run, a human civilization cannot run with only one gender being promoted and the other being marginalized. It's a hand in hand issue, and for that we need to analyze how we can change it, and theories help. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much. The way you have given the most suitable examples to this very topic are commendable. And my question is, because we have very less time left now, as you said, the women being used as a commodity, if we see the present perspective of the media. In many of the ad films, if we see that where the product, a male product is going to be promoted, for that a woman is used. So is this justified, or it's
no,
ridiculous?
It's not justified. See, it's just because we are habituated in doing it. We think that if we have a woman there, people will be attracted. That is where the theory of male gaze comes, because we are more interested to know how the male gaze looks at a woman. So if we project that product as having something to do with the female, then the male consumer will consume it more. That is the understanding. So that is where the theory of male gaze had come in.
And as I asked you yesterday also, that media today, or if we talk about the advertising or the advertising field or promotional fields, that in some way or the another social discontent, my yesterday's question was regarding the discontent between the different classes. Now the discontent between, as you said, a girl committed suicide after knowing that she could not afford that beauty product. So there is a social discontent between the beauty icons also, or a normal girl also?
Yeah, obviously, because they are selling a dream. Whether that is achievable or not, nobody is talking. When you are selling something, a commodity called which can help you to finish off your scars, you are not telling the truth that will actually finish off your top skins, and it will go down and down, and that at the age of 45 the scars will become more prominent. Nobody is talking that. So not only social, even not telling you the truth about that. It's all about being beautiful right now. It's not remaining beautiful forever. So, and then selling some impossible dreams to people. Look at the number of young girls at the age of 25, 23, 24 going for suffering from bilirubin because of the idea of beauty, idea of the skinny girl. You know, these type of things are happening. People are giving up food, and you have to understand women also has a very important role in society of being a mother, reproducing 2 children, 3 children, or whatever they want to, and then that actually deters her. If she is very skinny, doesn't eat well, she is down with hemoglobin, she cannot become a strong mother. And see that particular idea of healthy, good-looking human being is not sold. The idea of impossible beauty is sold. That is why I evoke this idea of a social idea of beauty and an economic idea of beauty. So the discontent that the impossible can be reached by someone is sold And that is why this sort of stories happen. I only told you one, there are hundreds in India where people think they can become beautiful by using these products, right?
Now, last not but the least question which I would like to ask you, that who is to blame and who is to take care of?
No, see, it's not about a blame game that I want to play. It's about the idea of patriarchy that's working, because it's a very economic solution. The economic solution is to empower the women in an economic way, and not only empower her in an economic way, she has to have a say over her own earnings. Many families, the women earns and gives the money to the husband to spend. That will not work. She has to have a decision making role in the family, not about what to eat, but also about where to spend. And if you see certain families where the woman has that role, it's not that all families are like that, that family is going very smooth. So, and then that will give her respect in the eyes of her children, and this value system will be imbibed by the next generation, and they will behave likewise with their own spouses. So it needs to start from there, and that will change. As long as we look at women as a commodity or a consumer product, or one person who is a consumer, this is going to stay. So not accepting the stereotypes of how a woman is projected is the first step, and that is where a family starts working on, and that goes out to the society.
With this note, we would thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much for delivering such a nice lecture, and hope that in future also we would be able to conduct a few more lectures on this very topic, so that a lot could come out and people would get aware with what they have and what they can give. Thank you, ma'am.